In Syria, chants for freedom have once again been met with bullets and bloodshed. Throngs of protesters took to the streets today calling for the downfall of the Assad regime, though Assad's forces retaliated with their now familiar brutality. Congressman Dennis Kucinich traveled to Syria this week and spoke to Assad. He joins me from Beirut. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Good to talk to you. Thank you.
So you had a very rare meeting with Assad, and not many Western diplomats or elected officials have had that meeting recently. You looked into his eyes. What is your judgment? Is he a brutal tyrant who kills at will, or does he genuinely want to reform governance in his country?
I can't look into his soul, but I can tell you in the two lengthy meetings I had with him, he is aware of the need to bring democratic reforms. He said that he's been ready to work with those who are pro-democracy activists. He recognizes there are some in the opposition who will not be placated, who want him out, and he understands that that time is running short.
Congressman, what steps should Assad take right now, in your view, to prove that he actually wants to reform Syria?
Well, you know, he certainly has to move forward and meet with the pro-democracy activists and hear from them about the measures that must be taken to move Syria towards a democratic country. People are concerned that if Assad is not able to deliver on these reforms, who replaces him? Does it degenerate into a civil war and sectarian strife? This is a concern in Lebanon, and frankly, it ought to be a concern in the whole region, because with Turkey. Yes. I was saying,
Congressman, there's no question that what happens in the aftermath of Assad being deposed, if that were to happen, is something everybody has to be concerned about. But this is a brutal dictator who, over the course of his and his father's regime, has murdered tens of thousands of people. You can't possibly be saying that somehow the concern of disruption after his departure should in any way excuse or permit us to support his continued reign of terror.
No one can support a reign of terror. This regime, however faulty it has been, however closed the society has been, has accepted that democratic freedoms are sweeping the region and that it has to go with that flow. And if it goes against it, it's going to be out. There's no question about that.
But Congressman,
no one can excuse their conduct prior to that, and I don't do that. I mean, so don't try to put me in a position where I'm suddenly endorsing a regime whose human rights record has been abominable and where there's violence in the street. What I'm saying is, let's think about the interests of the people of Syria and how to make sure that they're able to see their democratic aspirations fulfilled. And don't be so sure that if we just see Assad pushed out the door, and even a violent overthrow, that's going to bring about the very reforms that those of us in this country and many of the Western democracies want to see happen.
No, but Congressman,
don't be so sure of that.
Where I disagree with you fundamentally is you seem to accept as a premise that this Assad wants reform, and yet when you say he had a meeting with some of the pro-democracy forces, he to this very moment is slaughtering people, shooting them. His security forces are torturing. He has tanks on the border of Turkey. There isn't yet one demonstrable piece of evidence you can show us to show that he's changed his behavior. And it seems to me that the same rhetoric that we have heard from him, that you heard from him when you met with him, is exactly what he used to try to charm the West over the years. He's Western educated, listens to Western music, and then he murders. So none of that carries even the slightest bit of water with me. I've seen con men like this in the financial markets. I've seen him in international diplomacy. He's no better. And I don't think you've given us any evidence to suggest otherwise.
Let me respond. Look, I'm talking about now. So, you know, we've got to be very careful that we distinguish between what's happening now and what has happened in the past. Again, you know, I think you and I would agree on a lot of things here, but where I part company with you is that you want to just say, okay, let's get rid of Assad without saying what comes next. And you have a responsibility in your position to state exactly what comes next. And are you concerned about sectarian violence, or should we overlook it? Should we overlook what elements might be involved there and how that would affect the region? I'm saying let's support the aspirations of the Syrian people, promote the democracy movement, and also be very mindful of other elements which may have an anti-democratic agenda, which may work against the United States of America, as well as all the countries in the region. That's what I'm concerned about.
All right, Congressman, well said. We may disagree on certain points, but certainly we'll always enjoy talking to you and wish you well, and have a great 4th of July weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Up next, a